Good evening, hello and welcome. You're with the news today. This is your primetime destination. News, newsmakers, talking points, news without the noise. The big story this Monday night, Israel versus Iran, all-out war now. The conflict that's set to become an even bigger regional battle. We'll bring you the big story on Iran with various points of view, both from Tehran and from Tel Aviv. But first, as always, it's time for the 9 headlines at 9. After Iran strikes Tel Aviv and Haifa, Israel asks Iranian citizens to evacuate from Tehran, while Iran threatens to leave the nuclear weapons treaty. Both sides targeting each other with missile attacks. Israel claims superiority in the air. Russian President Vladimir Putin tells Donald Trump Moscow ready to resume peace talks. Zelensky says next steps only after a prisoner swap is complete. Cockpit voice recorder recovered from Air India crash site in Ahmedabad. Radios, transmissions, conversations between the pilots and engine noises now to be examined by probe agencies. Two mid-air scares within hours. Hong Kong and British Airways flights to Delhi both experienced technical snags, turned back mid-air and returned to Hong Kong and London. Warnings ignored and safety overlooked. Rupees 8 crore was sanctioned to replace the crumbling bridge that was swept away in Pune during rains. Rupees 5 lakh announced for families of those affected. Prime Minister Modi leaves for Canada to attend G7 summit after concluding Cyprus visit. Focus on trade and peace talks. First, Trump-Modi face-to-face meeting likely after the Operation Sindoor ceasefire credit war. Government sets the ball rolling for a census caste survey in census 2027. Politics erupts. Congress asks, is census just a jumla? BJP hits out at Congress over hushing up the 2011 caste census data. Mumbai roads waterlogged as heavy rains pound the city. Orange alert issued. Severe rainfall in Thane and Palghar too. Last video of Raja Raghuvanshi with Sonam hours before he was murdered, captured by a tourist. Picture of murder weapon purchased in Guwahati is released by the police. But here the big breaking news this evening. Iran state TV has now been attacked by Israeli air power. That's right. Take a look at the dramatic pictures you're about to see. Iranian state broadcaster under attack right now as Israeli jets have targeted the state TV headquarters in Tehran. It was bombed during a live news broadcast. This comes after Israel issued a warning to people in Tehran to evacuate, that they would now target Tehran and they had complete control over the skies in Tehran, is what is being claimed by the Israelis. But those dramatic pictures coming in even as a state TV broadcast was on. As you can see, fumes breaking out the moment even as the anchor was there in the studio, darkness and then fumes as reportedly an Israeli jet has pounded the state TV broadcaster. Now remember, those images are part of what we have been seeing in the last few days. The Israel versus Iran face-off has entered its 4th day today, with both sides showing no signs of taking any step towards de-escalation. While the world, including India, continues to watch the situation with increasing concern, the fact remains that we have our own skin in the game. Thousands of Indians are stranded in both nations. The big question, of course, is there any kind of end game? And will this result in a regime change in Iran? Or will the US put pressure on Israel now to back off? Our top story today on a conflict that's threatening to escalate into a full-blown war.
It's day 4 of a war that has plunged West Asia into chaos. and threatens to drag in the rest of the world. A devastating wave of missile strikes from Iran. Loud explosions were heard in Israel's Haifa area as some of the Iranian missiles slipped through Israel's missile defense, hitting civilian areas. Israel and Iran launched fresh attacks on each other, killing scores of civilians and raising fears of a wider conflict. Eyewitness images showed thick plumes of smoke rising next to a refinery plant in Israel's Haifa. Meanwhile, Israeli army released a video which showed a strike on a military site in the Iranian capital of Tehran. Israeli Air Force also identified and eliminated surface-to-air missile launch troops seconds before they reached the launchers south of Tehran. The Israeli troops were eliminated and the launcher was destroyed in Israeli strike.
אנחנו פה כי אנחנו במערכה קיומית שהיום מובנת לכל אזרחי ישראל. תחשבו מה יקרה אם לאיראן...
We are here because of an existential war. Think about what would happen if Iran had nuclear weapons. We embarked on a war of salvation against the threat. Iran will pay a heavy price for the killing of civilians. We will strike them. We will deliver them a crushing blow. They will feel our might.
איראן תשלם מחיר יקר מאוד.
Iran has now also said that its parliament is preparing a bill to leave the nuclear non-proliferation treaty and that Tehran remains opposed to developing weapons of mass destruction. Meanwhile, world leaders continue to push for de-escalation in war.
Well, I hope there's going to be a deal. I think it's time for a deal and we'll see what happens, but sometimes they have to fight it out, but we're going to see what happens. I think there's a good chance there'll be a deal.
But India too has a human stake in the conflict.
Tehran University के जो students हैं, उनकी boys dorm के नज़दीक ही हमला हुआ है and they have also been affected by the attack और कुछ जो students हैं वो ज़ख्मी भी हो गए हैं. So
trapped in the war zone are Indians, especially those in Iran. Families of over 1,500 Kashmiri students stuck in Iran have appealed to Prime Minister Modi to intervene.
क्योंकि मेरी बेटी शी स्पेशल नहीं, हमारे लिए सारे बच्चे स्पेशल है. जो हमारे बच्चों को इवैक्यूएट कीजिए. हम आपके रिक्वेस्ट करते हैं, रिक्वेस्ट कर रहे हैं कि उनको वहाँ से प्लीज, वो इस पोजीशन में नहीं है.
हम गवर्नमेंट से अपील करते हैं, प्लीज एंड प्लीज हमारे बच्चों को इवैक्यूएट करें. अगर इवैक्यूएट ना कर सकते हो इस टाइम पे, प्लीज उनको सेफर जोन पे ले जाए.
After the Indian government's assurance, Indian students in Tehran are being evacuated to the city of Qom. Tehran has stated that although the airspace is closed over Iran, all land borders are open for the safe evacuation of Indian nationals. It is the gravest crisis to engage an already disturbed West Asia region in years. And as Israel and Iran show no signs of de-escalation, countries like India are wary of being dragged into the crossfire, both literally and figuratively. Bureau Report, India Today.
Okay, my first guest tonight is May Golan. She's a senior minister in the government of Benjamin Netanyahu. She's joining me from a safe place in Tel Aviv at the moment, a city that's been bombed. May, appreciate you joining us. We have seen in the last few days and hours indeed, a further escalation of this conflict. One missile thrown by Iran on Tel Aviv responded with missiles on Tehran. Is there an end game to this conflict? Or are we going to see these tit-for-tat strikes continue over the next few days?
Look, we have to admit the facts and the truth. Israel has been avoiding this war for over 20 years. But right now we see that Israel has reached the no-return point with the Iranian regime in Iran, which is actually a dictatorship that says every day of every week of the year that she wants to destroy the state of Israel and kill the population of Israel. Israel wishes no wish to go into war, to take her soldiers into war, her pilots. She has no wish to put the majority of her population in safe rooms, you know.
No, but you're saying, May, there that you're claiming that Israel does not want to push the region into war. But here you have Iran claiming that Israel has been the aggressor this time. Iran is the one that is exercising the right to self-defense after the missile strikes and the taking out of Iranian military commanders and nuclear scientists. How do you respond to what you're hearing from Tehran?
Yeah, but the only difference is that we are trying to eliminate the dictatorship, the Ayatollah, the Iranian regime that for years says that Israel needs to end. They are shooting at an innocent population. We are telling the population to live in a head. They are not. Really, you know, in the end of the day, I have to understand, is there any country that will accept the fact that there is a regime that says every day that it wants to destroy it? I don't know any other country like that.
You're saying that Iran wants to destroy Israel. Is Israel in turn looking for a regime change in Iran, that you want Ayatollah Khamenei to be replaced? There were reports that Donald Trump, according to Benjamin Netanyahu, that there is no regime change as such, but he wants the people of Iran to rise against the Ayatollah. Are you looking for a regime change in Iran?
First of all, I want to say that we have no beef with the Iranian people. On the contrary, we had a great friendship 50 years ago with the Iranian people. We admire them, their culture, their strongness, their beliefs. We have no fight with them. We have a fight with their regime. Now, I can't meddle in the people and what they want. They will decide what kind of a regime they have. They have a dictatorship, so they don't get to decide. We have a democracy. So in a democracy, you get to decide who will manage your country.
But is there an end game, ma'am? Because this could now, with every passing day, escalate, widen and draw in other countries in the Middle East, possibly in other parts of the world, given the stakes involved. Is that a fear or not, that this is going to escalate beyond control?
There's only one end game. Iran has to stop enrich uranium. Iran has to stop and trying to have nuclear weapon that will destroy Israel. That is the only end game. We won't stop until we know that the state of Israel and her civilians are safe and protected. Just like any other country in the world will not accept that. I have to tell you, listen, we are an island of justice in a sea of evil. This is not just the fight of Israel. Yes, we are fighting for our protection, but this is the fight of every liberal democracy. This is the fight of the free world. This is the fight for evil against good, for what's right against what's wrong. This is the fight. No one in his right mind can look at the Iranian regime, which is a cruel, horrible dictatorship, and say that that is a normal thing that can exist. These people, they're Israel, the small Satan, and America, the big Satan. So that means every shape of democracy and every shape of terrorism. Why should we accept that? Should we wait for the second nuclear holocaust to happen? Should we?
No, you're saying that that you can't wait for the second nuclear holocaust to happen. You're blaming this on Iran's uranium enrichment program, which Iran says they are perfectly entitled to do. They claim it's a matter of their national sovereignty. But let me break down what you said just now, May. Number one, there will be those who will argue today that Israel's response in the last few days is disproportionate. Not just in Iran, but we've also seen in Gaza the manner in which innocent children have been killed. I know what happened on October 7, 2023 was terrible. But look at the response that you're seeing. Innocents are being killed both in Gaza and in Iran. Is your response proportionate?
Absolutely not. I think what happened on October 7th was the most horrifying attack against Jews since the Holocaust. And I think that seeing the sights, if you would have seen the sights of women being raped, murdered, babies being slaughtered, men being cut off in their heads, I don't think that anyone can criticize Israel. And I remind you that the only innocent people that are in Gaza right now are the 53 hostages that are still being held in the dungeons, in the tunnels of the horrifying Nazi Hamas terrorists of our days. And they are the ones who should be released. Someone should take care of them now, if they eat, if they're alive, if they're being tormented, if they're getting medical care. No one cares about them.
You know, you also mentioned earlier, this is a fight for the free world between the forces of good and evil. Do you therefore expect, if this is a fight for the free world, Western democracies to join you in this fight? The US and the Western allies will join you in this fight against Iran at some stage? Is that the Israeli hope?
First of all, I want to say from this stage that I salute President Donald Trump and his efforts and his right place in the history of what's right and what's wrong. I can tell you that President Trump knows what's right and what's wrong, and he knows that we are trying to do every kind of diplomatic way in order to solve that. And when it's not possible, then we have to go out to war. Right now, this is Israel's war. And I trust President Trump to know what to do when it's time to do it. President Trump says he wants to try and reach an agreement. Well, we wish there is an agreement with someone to do an agreement with, and for them to stop and enriching uranium for a nuclear bomb. But until then, we have to keep our civilians safe, and we will do that alone if we have to. But I know that the free world will not let it stand aside, because if Israel will be destroyed, the rest of the free world will be destroyed. The liberal, enlightened world will not be able to exist. Again, I'm emphasizing this is a fight between good and bad.
You know, but why not, you know, you say that, repeatedly say you all want peace. If you want peace, then why not allow the US-Iran negotiations on the nuclear issue to continue? These negotiations were to take place yesterday in Oman. They were called off at the last moment. If you all ask, why did you not allow the US-Iran negotiations to continue? Why did you strike?
I'll tell you why. First of all, you asked why to not prolong with the talks. Well, they are cheating. They are absolutely cheating. They are lying. They are continuing with the talks, saying they're stopping to enrich uranium, saying they will bring to an agreement, while they're continuing non-stop. We have an intel, a very big intel, I might add, an intel that the United States of America is well aware of. And then intel shows very clearly that you haven't stopped to enrich uranium, and haven't stopped in order to try and destroy the state of Israel. Now, I'm telling you that if we wouldn't have that very clear intel of our Mossad and our forces, then we wouldn't have known that we have reached a very, very dangerous point in the basic existence of the state of Israel. And I don't know any leader of a country that would have been fully aware of the fact that there is a real danger, a real jeopardy to the existence of 10 million people of his country, and he would have stayed silent. This is the leader. Our leader knows what he's doing. Our military forces knows what they're doing. What they're doing. Trust me, we have a very successful country that has been able in 80 years to establish a high-tech empowerment, that has been able to reach so many achievements, cultural, economic, social. We don't want to ruin our lives. We don't want to try and live in a horrible war. This is not our goal at all, compared to the Iranian regime that is making the population in his country miserable and poor, hungry and depressed. How in favor of enriching uranium and destroying the Zionism, aka the state of Israel. That's why we had to attack now.
Are you surprised, though, May, by the intensity of what Iran is also doing? The fact is that missiles have hit deep into Tel Aviv. There was reports of an attack close to the US embassy in Tel Aviv. Tehran seems to be sending the message, May, that don't treat us just as a proxy. We are not Hezbollah, we are not the Houthis. We are a strong state and we will hit you back. Are you surprised?
No, I'm not surprised at all. You know what I am surprised of? I am surprised from the millions of views that the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is getting with every video that he's saying to the Iranian people. I am surprised with the thousands of messages we're getting as support from the Iranian people and the wishes they wish on us and the happiness they have in our attempt to bring back also freedom. That's what I'm surprised of.
So what you're saying is Israel will continue to target Tehran, which means there will continue to be civilian casualties as they were in Gaza. Is that the strategy now, to somehow or the other raise the costs of this war for Iran, even if it means killing civilians?
I can tell you that the IDF, the Army of Israel, is the most moral army in the world. And I stand behind what I say. And we are telling the population all the time to leave. We are not targeting innocent civilians. We are only targeting the regime of dictatorship of the Ayatollahs. And we will
civilians
not
are dead, ma'am.
stop until we take out the threat of terrorism and destruction on the state of Israel from the dictatorship of the Iranian regime. We will not stop.
You will not stop. One final question, May. What about India? What do you expect, Madam Minister, from the Indian government of Prime Minister Modi? Because within the SCO, the Shanghai Cooperation, you've got countries like China who seem to be coming out in support of Iran. Russia seems to be coming out in support of Iran. India has taken a seemingly more neutral stand. What do you expect from the Indian government?
First of all, I want to, on behalf of myself and the government and our Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, to say thank you to Narendra Modi, your Prime Minister, on his friendship and on his care to Israel throughout the years. And we expect from the entire liberal world to stand beside what's right. That's all.
Okay. There we have the minister joining us there. Appreciate May for joining us here on the show. May Golan joining me from Tel Aviv. Stay safe. Thanks very much for joining us. The big questions, of course, can Israel still claim to be the victim, as was suggested by the minister in that interview? Will America surely, sooner or later, get involved militarily? Are we heading for a full-fledged war in the Middle East? What is the real end game? Joining me now is K.C. Singh. He's former Indian ambassador to Iran and UAE, former secretary at the MEA. And Sardesai Isfahani is an Iran watcher and senior research analyst, National Union for Democracy in Iran. Appreciate both of you joining us on the show. K.C., let me come to you first here, because it seems at the moment, listening to the Israeli minister, that Israel wants to, in a way, without saying so, try and push the Iranian regime to the brink. Do you see that happening in the next few days, or are we heading for a long, drawn-out war?
I don't think it's going to be long drawn out. Some of the signals late this evening, some of the messages coming out are that Iranians have asked Qatar, Oman, and Saudis to convey to the Americans the message that they should restrain Israel and a ceasefire should be there. Normally, Rajdeep, in any such confrontation, I think first day, Israel dominated the attack because they took Iran by surprise. Iranians felt that because the talks were due 2 days later with the Americans...
I'm having some problem with your audio, Mr. Singh. Let me try and get your audio fixed. In the meantime, I'm going to go to Sardesai Isfahani. Khushru, the same question to you. Are we seeing the possibility of a regime change in Iran with every passing day? Or do you see now hope of a de-escalation of this conflict with possible American and even Russian involvement?
Hello, sir. Thank you for having me. So the issue right now is that Israel has the upper hand in this conflict. The Islamic Republic has zero chance of fending off these attacks. You're seeing that literally almost all parts of their defense system has been taken out without being able to even impose any meaningful impact on the incoming projectiles. In addition to that, yes, the Islamic Republic is trying to pull this old line that the regime is looking for de-escalation. It's hoping that it can find an off-ramp, but without any cost. This regime is not going to change its 4-decade-old strategy and ideology. They are going to pursue weapons of mass destruction. They are going to pursue building drones that have claimed hundreds and hundreds of lives across the Middle East. They are going to continue the missile program. They are going to continue exporting terrorism around the world. So the off-ramp that this regime is hoping to achieve is maintaining all these weapons of terror. What can be the end goal here for the Israeli side is defanging the Islamic Republic, removing the threat once and for all.
Okay, so you seem to suggest that the Israelis are looking at regime change. Now, that's a very controversial, contentious issue, KC Singh. But you seem to suggest before we got cut off that you believe that there are signs of de-escalation, possibly with US and Russian involvement?
Yes, I think what US has been doing is they are watching it from the sidelines. There is a reluctance to jump in. And the very fact that Prime Minister of Israel invited Americans to come in to finish the job indicated that though they dominate the skies over Iran, Iranians have been able to hit through the Iron Dome with their missiles. So it's kind of it's a tit for tat. It's not a very one-sided encounter. So as a result, you are seeing damage in Tel Aviv, you're seeing damage in Haifa and the port and the electricity production units. So they can keep hitting each other. But Israel have not been able to permanently damage those parts of the Iranian nuclear program which are embedded in the mountains, which are underground. That can't be done without American help and without their bunker busters and so on and so forth. So what's happening is there are reports Americans are moving their huge amount of mid-air refuelers from America towards this region. I think they're sending a signal to Iran that if this goes on, at some stage, America will have to jump in. And therefore, time has come for Iran to put the cards on the table. So what the Iranians, apparently the message which is going out, Reuters has carried it, is that they'll be more flexible in their negotiation. Normally, Rajdeep, in any such fight, either you have a victor and you have a defeated, or you have both exchanging blows, and then each can tell their own country that, look, we've also drawn the blood, and then you can sit down and talk. And you can't carry on this way. I think Israel, being a much smaller country, because of the hypersonic missiles of Iran being able to penetrate their defense, even if 10 missiles or 5 missiles go in, they are causing a lot of damage. So even though Israel can say that they will carry on, but I think the damage beyond a stage, it's a democracy. Public opinion will kick in. Whereas in Iran, it's much easier for them to handle the public opinion than it'll be possible for Israel. So I think the window is available now in the next 24, 48 hours because the only danger is that if either a black flag operation where an American base or some American asset is attacked, then the war will widen instantly because Americans will have to jump in. And I think that narrow window is available in the next day or so. Also, President Trump will be in Canada. He'll find all the other G7 leaders telling him to do something about it. Because you can't discuss any other big affair, economic affair, trade, nothing, until this war is going on.
Let me bring in what the endgame possibilities are. Tit for tat retaliation continues. Iran accelerates its nuclear program after exiting the talks with the US. They've already suggested that they could even exit the NPT treaty. Iran then leverages proxies, Houthis and Hezbollah to strike Israel. The strikes on US targets in Gulf force would result in direct American involvement. And then, of course, Israel effects a regime change by removing Khamenei. He's now 86. or China and Russia take sides and the conflict becomes a full-scale war. So there are lots of possibilities that exist at the moment, and all these possibilities in a way are on the table as long as this war continues as we are seeing over the last few days. Let me go back to my guest in the United States. Khosrow, what's your sense? Do you believe that the people of Iran will stand with their regime even if they see this kind of destruction?
That's exactly what I wanted to talk about and push back on the comments from the other honorable guests. The thing is, the understanding of outside world from the Iranian people, what they feel has been wrong for a very, very long time. Since these attacks have started, many Iranians have took to social media platforms. Families of people who were killed by this regime during the previous rounds of protest movements are writing under a specific hashtag saying that our enemy is here. They are recounting the violence that they have faced from the regime and repeating this message that the Islamic Republic is the enemy of the Iranian people, not any outside voice or force. That's point one. Point two, we already are seeing people chanting death to Khamenei while missiles and drones are flying over Tehran. This is not an isolated incident. We are seeing these videos coming out of Tehran almost every night. Since the attack started, people are chanting death to murderous Khamenei in Tehran. That's the general mood among a large portion of the Iranian society who, since the inception of this theocratic system, has been fighting against the regime, has been on the streets, has paid the blood price for making any meaningful change possible in Iran, and is still on the front line of fighting this regime. That has not changed. The Iranian people are not going to rally behind Ali Khamenei and its murderous regime. And sorry for taking more time, but the military capabilities of the Islamic Republic are in no way at the same standing as the Israeli government. Yes, they have ballistic missiles and drones, but in the first wave of the attack that the Islamic Republic mounted, not a single drone passed Israeli defenses. Yes, they are targeting Israeli civilians. Yes, they are causing harm to innocent people in Israel, but that has been minimal compared to the level that the Israeli army has been able to literally decapitate the whole IRGC. All the top command of the IRGC has been taken out without a large military campaign, without boots on the ground.
Okay. I just want to, before I end, also remind people what this means for India and the world. 80% of crude oil imports are via the Strait of Hormuz. Now that is at risk, particularly if Iran decides to intensify the conflict. Rising fuel costs, fuel was up intraday to $78, could even cross 100 if the war continues, leads to global uncertainty hitting markets. There's a disruption to trade and connectivity to Iran and Israel, and don't forget, at risk, 20,000 Indians in Israel, 10,000 in Iran. What does this mean for the world? Crude prices, as I said, could rise above $100 a barrel, fueling global inflation. Multiple war fronts breaking out in West Asia and Middle East. An opportunity for Russia and China to consolidate their influence in the region. KC Singh, what stand then should India take? So far, unlike other countries, India is trying to maintain neutrality. It's broadly seen to be pro-Israel, if anything. How do you see this playing out? What cards does India hold, if any at all?
I think we'll have to continue with the same stand. I don't think we have any cards. If you see, Pakistan has jumped in very strongly on the side of Iran. They want to use this opportunity to make an Islamic connection. There are also reports, I don't know whether they are correct, that they have said that if Israel uses a nuclear device against Iran, we will retaliate. I don't know whether
they've denied that. KC, they've denied that. The Iranian said that Pakistan was ready to use a nuclear strike on Israel. That has been denied by Islamabad. But go ahead.
But nevertheless, they are reaching out to Pakistan. And they think there's an opportunity there because you got Turkey, you got Pakistan, you got there's a convergence of the Islamic countries. Gulf countries are, of course, secretly very happy if Iran is defanged, but in public, because the public opinion at the street level will be totally with Iran on this. Mm-hmm. Let's not make any mistakes. And the very fact that it's been known that President Trump apparently did not agree with the killing of the supreme leader of Iran. That's not been denied by anyone. That report has come out that President Trump vetoed it. Now, that means even the Americans know that you can't completely decapitate the Iranian regime. You will have chaos after that. It's better to beaten up Iran is better than a dead Iran. You know, that's right. Of no use to anyone. It's too large a country, 88 million people. You don't want instability in that part. It'll destabilize the whole region. So I think what they want is an Iran which has faced the consequences, and Israel also, which has seen, because Netanyahu has been dying to go at Iran for a long time. And he's not been able to decapitate them fully. He took them by surprise the first day. And despite the RGS top commanders being taken out, Iran has still shown that they're able to hit back. They haven't stopped hitting back. They've taken their various assets out, but they are still able to fire missiles every night. So they have underground places where they've got missiles. They've slowly gone up using more and more sophisticated missiles. So they're conveying that they can, and don't forget, even Israel has a limited amount of anti-missile capability. And that's why there was a report that there's a plane which has carried some more anti-missile batteries from Qatar to Israel. So even the Americans may have very limited amount. So you can keep flinging the missiles there. And a missile may be worth $10,000, $20,000. But the one that Israel is firing to stop it is worth a few $1 million. So this can't go on. It's economically also not matchable. So I think Americans sensibly have sat out, and now they have an opportunity, and I hope they seize it and bring them back to the table, both being humbled in their own way. Each one has tried.
Okay, I'm going to leave it there, K.C. Singh. There was a very detailed answer that you've just given us to what is a very complex issue, one that over the next 48 hours could hopefully see some kind of de-escalation. Much depends, of course, on the two principal stakeholders, Netanyahu and Khamenei. Appreciate my guest joining me, Mr. Isfani from Washington, K.C. Singh here in New Delhi. Let's turn from there to our other big story, where there seems to be another breakthrough in the Ahmedabad plane crash probe. The cockpit voice recorder has been recovered. Investigators seem closer now than ever to understanding what went wrong in the final moments. U.S. probe officials have also reached the crash site, have started their investigation. Take a look at the latest on the probe into the crash of AI 171.
Amid twisted metal and shattered lives, and a vital clue. On what led to the catastrophic Ahmedabad crash. Investigators have recovered a critical piece of evidence, the cockpit voice recorder, or CVR, from the wreckage. This small device could unlock the final moments inside the cockpit, capturing every word between the pilots, every alarm, every system failure, and every second of panic. Earlier, the black box of the digital flight data recorder was also recovered from the roof of the building hit by the Air India flight. Black box holds all the vital parameters and record of tech snags that could have afflicted the plane. Personnel from U.S. Transport Safety Board, officials from Boeing, and investigators of the Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau arrived to inspect the crash spot. The high-level government panel headed by the Union Home Secretary also met to evaluate if safety protocols were followed in Ahmedabad. The version of the man who lived in the deadly crash holds immense importance. An unseen video of Vishwas, the lone passenger to survive, emerged, showing him being led away from the towering inferno after the crash. Dazed and disoriented, His account could be the key to find out what went wrong. How long before India gets answers to all its questions? Bureau Report, India Today.
And less than a week after that crash off the Boeing Dreamliner in Ahmedabad, multiple reports today of mid-air glitches in the same fleet reported from different parts of the world. The Dreamliner considered one of the safest planes, but today a Chennai-bound British Airways flight from London was turned back mid-air after it reported a technical issue. It landed safely, and British Airways says the aircraft has returned to Heathrow as a standard precautionary measure. The same thing happened with a flight that was coming in from Hong Kong. So the Hong Kong-Delhi flight and a flight from London to Chennai, both facing apparently technical issues. All of this puts the focus on air safety, an issue that right through this week we will be focusing on. My guest today is a former minister, he's a BJP member, and he's been importantly a former pilot. Dinesh Trivedi joins me. Appreciate your joining us, Mr. Trivedi. Over the last couple of days, you have been WhatsApping me, expressing your concern over air safety standards. Do you want to amplify that? Why do you believe that this crash raises serious questions about the air safety ecosystem in India?
Rajdeep, we are into totally a different world of aviation. When I was flying, we had to fly an aircraft. Now we have to manage the cockpit. And the reason I'm telling this area has become highly, highly technical and very high risk. What is ailing aviation, I can talk about India, is lack of discipline in one word across the board. And the reason is, if you ask most of the pilot or maybe engineer, they are living under the fear of punishment. So, I've had the experience of learning.
No, 1 minute. Fear of punishment. No, you're making us, you're saying there's a lack of discipline and your pilots are living in fear. Fear of whom?
Fear of the management. And unfortunately, see, there are two aspects.
You're referring here specifically to Air India?
I'm referring to all the pilots. I'll just give you 1 minute. I'll clarify the issue. I've had the experience of going close to running a most complex transportation system, namely the railways. And I tell you, they are the most competent people. The operational part can only be run by the people who have the operational knowledge. If I, as a minister, try to run the railways, then there will be disaster. At the moment, there are two aspects. One is the commercial aspect, and one is the operational aspect of, let's say, airline. Now, problem rises when the commercial aspect of the airline takes over the operational part of the airline. In other words, every time you're threatened to save a penny here and there, and pilots today are treated almost like, I'll ask any pilot. In private, they're like slaves. They live under fear. They fly like crazy, disoriented. The commander could be 24 years old. The co-pilot could be 18 years old. The rate at which civil aviation is going through the roof, airports are looking like stations. We are very happy that there is progress. But at the moment, you need to consolidate the progress. Take, for example, DGCA. I mean, you must have domain knowledge. If you do not have a domain knowledge, how are you going to implement things? You need to understand the civil aviation industry totally.
No, Mr. Trivedi, while you raise these questions, and you have every right to raise them, let me push back a bit. India's ranking in air safety, 2018, 102. It's now up in 2022 to 48 as per the International Civil Aviation Organization. How safe are Indian skies? Safer than US or China? Operation-wise, 94.2%. Airworthiness, we are 97.06%. That's better than the United States. Operation, 86.5%. Airworthiness, 89.13%. China, more or less where we are. Operation, 90%. Airworthiness, 94.83%. So are we rushing to damn the DGCA, damn Air India much too quickly?
No. I tell you, if you say that one particular city has no criminal record, because a lot of incidences are not recorded, not reported. So if you go through the number of incidences take place, for example, do you know how many pilots have died on heart attack in the last few years, just before the duty or just after the duty? Have a look at the record of near misses. We have been very fortunate to have one of the best brains, most trained, most efficient pilots and engineers you can find anywhere in the world. That's why Indian pilots, Indian engineers, all are in demand. I'll give you an example of Air India. Cabin crew, actually, you know why they are there? They are a huge, big part of safety. They are not there just to serve us hot coffee. And if you have, I have no problem with the fashion designers. But if you think that fashionables can overcome the technical aspect of a cabin crew, for example, shoes, for example, fabric, one has to go through such details. And another thing, it is very important to have professional union of any such technical organization to get feedback. You look at Lufthansa, you look at any major airline, TWA, Delta, every major airline has a professional union, not for the union body. Why Railway had a big union, and I always interacted, and I've learned from the union a lot. Union doesn't mean that they are always going on strike. Yes, there are some troublemakers too. But at the end of the day, the fear of management, and I have brought this to Air India's notice at the highest level, even at the level of Mr. Chandra. But the problem is, JRD was a pilot himself. And what a lovely product he left with us. I have no issue with Air India. In fact, I'm in Cambridge University, and tomorrow I'm taking Air India flight back home. But one has to understand the discipline aspect of it. Without understanding that, I think at the moment we are into a very, very sensitive zone, and we need to understand, and we need to come together and talk about it.
I want to leave it there. I want to leave it there because the truth also, Mr. Trivedi, while you're raising valid issues about stress on pilots, truth also is we have a very fine pilot team. India has some of the finest pilots in the world.
Yeah, I told you that they're the best.
Yeah, so while you're raising these issues about discipline and management, let's also not take away from that.
In conclusion, I'll tell you in a probe what happens. If the pilot is alive, hang him. If pilot is dead, bury him.
Okay, let's leave it there, Dinesh Trivedi. Joining me on the show, as I said, right through this week, we'll have different voices speaking on the vital issue of safety in the skies. Let's turn to tonight's ground report. 4 people lost their lives, 32 people injured after an old dilapidated bridge over the Indrayani River collapsed in Maharashtra's Pune yesterday. But like is often the case, this too could have been in some ways a man-made tragedy that could have been averted. Official records with India Today show that rupees 8 crore had been sanctioned in 2024 for a new bridge at the same spot, yet no construction ever began. Tourists who visit the area were forced, therefore, to use the crumbling bridge till it came crashing down on Sunday. Take a look.
A tragedy born out of apathy. That's the harsh reality emerging from Pune's Kundamara Bridge collapse. 4 lives lost, 32 people injured. Why was this bridge not shut to the common people? The bigger question, why was the newer, sanctioned bridge never built? India Today has accessed documents that show the Maharashtra government had sanctioned 8 crore rupees for a new pedestrian bridge here way back in July 2024. The PWD team surveyed the site, completed technical reports and floated an e-tender on October 15, 2024. Coincidentally, the same day the Model Code of Conduct kicked in ahead of state elections. As per rules, tenders cleared before the code are not stalled. But even if one was to give the government the benefit of the doubt Fact remains that Devendra Fadnavis returned as CM in December last year. So for the 6 months of this year, there was no construction on this supposed new bridge. The work order, the government now claims, was issued on June 10, 2025. But it's handwritten on an otherwise printed document. Was this a backdated attempt to deflect accountability? The bottom line remains that on June 15th, the old bridge crumbled under the weight of visitors. Almost a full year after the decision was taken to build a new bridge.
When India Today accessed the documents from Public Work Department of Maharashtra, it became evident that the documents are completely contradictory to what the government officials and ministers were claiming yesterday. Interestingly, the date mentioned on the same work order was handwritten, but the other format of whole form, and the order, it was a completely printed format.
The iron bridge, closed for vehicles but open to pedestrians, had long been in a dangerous condition. Despite multiple warnings, it remained accessible, a disaster waiting to happen. Sunil Kumar, who had come to Pune from Delhi to visit relatives, is among the injured. He says tourists weren't supposed to access the collapsed area, but many did.
आप कहाँ से हो? आप एग्जैक्टली क्या हुआ?
दिल्ली से जी।
दिल्ली से हो?
हाँ जी।
कितने लोग थे? क्या हुआ एग्जैक्टली?
एग्जैक्टली क्या, पुल पे इतना पब्लिक हो गई थी और बाइक स्कूटी सब पब्लिक वहाँ पुल पे सेल्फी ले रहे थे, फिर कुछ ज़्यादा ही हिलने लग गया, पब्लिक बढ़ गई। अब पुल पे पानी भी भरा पड़ा था बारिश का, अब वो नीचे की एंगल घाट वगैरह वो थोड़ी गली पड़ी थी।
The Maharashtra government has now ordered a statewide structural audit of all old bridges. But for the families who lost loved ones in Kundamada, that may be too little, too late. With Omkar Wable in Pune, Bureau Report, India Today.
Let's then turn to our good news today story of the day, and it comes from Gujarat's Banaskantha district, where farmers are taking charge to improve the agricultural landscape by focusing on sustainable agriculture and water conservation. Take a look at our next report.
A green revolution is underway in Gujarat's Banaskantha district. Dry farmlands are getting a new lease of life. All thanks to an innovation campaign to harvest rainwater. Farmers here are collecting rainwater by making khet talabdi or ponds in their fields.
हमारे यहाँ पानी की बहुत दिक्कत है और इसीलिए ये खेत तालाबड़ी खोदी हुई है। अभी ये मैंने अपने खेत में खुदवाई है, जिसकी वजह से बरसात हुई पानी का संग्रह हो सके और उससे तीनों सीजन खेती हो पाए।
जो बारिश का पानी बहकर जो रण में या दरिया में समुद्र में चला जाता है, उसको खेत का पानी खेत में रहे और गांव का पानी गांव में रहे, हिसाब से खेत में छोटी बड़ी डिग्गी किसान बनाते हैं। इसी प्रकार आप देख रहे हैं डिग्गी 150 फीट चौड़ी, 180 फीट लंबी और इस डिग्गी में 1,25,00,000 पानी की क्षमता है।
The farmers who had already taken up drip irrigation have also joined hands to recharge borewells.
हमारा जो मंत्रालय जल संचय मंत्रालय जो भारत सरकार का है, वो भी इसी काम के अंदर बनासकांठा को डार्क जोन में से उठाने के लिए उन्होंने जहमत उठाई है। हर किसान इसके साथ जुट रहा है। छोटे छोटे खड्डा कर जितना भी बहता पानी है उसको रोकने का काम कर रहे हैं।
So far, more than 1,000 farm ponds have been built in this district. Farmers say 800 crore litres of water was stored last year. Bureau Report, India Today.
From our positive story of the day, just to end with an India Today fact check, there were claims that videos show recent protests against the regime in Iran following Israel's attack. In fact, the first video is from December 2017. The second video shows Iranians observing the damage following the strike. That's our fact check tonight. Thanks for watching. Stay well, stay safe. Good night. Shubh Ratri. Jai Hind. Namaskar.